Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Farthing. I am the Business Processing Division Manager. In our section, we work with business income tax and withholding income tax. This morning, I'd like to give you some basic information about filing for Illinois business income tax. We'll begin with an overview of the filing requirements for business. Then we're going to take a look at the most challenging parts of filing for businesses in Illinois: the pass-through withholding, pass-through entity tax, and the brand new investment partnership withholding. Finally, I'd like to go over some of the most common mistakes that we see from Illinois businesses when they file their returns. Avoiding these mistakes will prevent delays in the processing of your tax return. Let's begin by looking at the requirements for each filing type of the business income tax return. As you can see from the chart here, each return type has an original return due date and an automatic extended due date. Please see the form instructions for specifics about the due date of the return as well as special cases. Some of those special cases include cooperatives and corporations that file a fiscal June tax year. For all business return types, full payment is due at the time of the original due date. This is true even if the return itself is not filed until the extended due date. Additionally, estimated payments are required for income tax liabilities of $400 or more on an IL 1120. These quarterly payments are due on the 15th day of the 4th, 6th, 9th, and 12th months of the tax year. For those electing to pay pass-through entity tax on an 1120 ST or a 1065 return, the estimated payments are due for a tax liability of $500 or more, as opposed to the $400 that you find on the 1120 return. Now, with regards to pass-through entity tax, partnerships and S corporations may elect to pay pass-through entity tax, which we call PTE tax. They must pay it for their partners and shareholders. PTE tax is an amount equal to 4.95% of the taxpayer's calculated net income for the taxable year. Once reported and paid, a PTE tax credit is then distributed to each partner or shareholder on a Schedule K1P for the portion of their share of the amount of PTE tax paid by the partnership or the S corporation. It should be noted that once a taxpayer makes the election to pay PTE tax, that election is irrevocable. In order to make the PTE tax election, you will select box I on the 1065 return or box L on the 1120 ST. Additionally, those taxpayers that do make the PTE election may choose to annualize their income by checking box J on the 1065 or box M on the 1120 ST. I will note that these are the same check boxes that we had on the 2022 tax year form. Pass-through entity income is reported by the lower tier entity on both the 1065 and the 1120 ST on line 60 of the respective return. And then the PTE tax is calculated and reported on line 61. Please note that if the PTE election is made, there should be no pass-through withholding reported on line 59. You may either pay pass-through withholding on line 59 or pass-through entity tax on line 61, but not both. Now, when a lower tier entity reports pass-through entity tax, a Schedule B will also need to be completed with the return. you will list the total amount of PTE credit being distributed on line 6 of Schedule A. The distributed amount for each partner or shareholder should be reported on the appropriate column for each partner or shareholder on line K of Section B. When distributing a pass-through entity tax credit, a Schedule K-1P must be issued to that partner or shareholder. The amount that was reported on that line K of Section B of Schedule B, you'll carry that amount over to Schedule K-1P for the partner or shareholder being reported. The amount is reported on line 53A of the respective Schedule K-1P. For a middle tier to report pass-through entity tax credit, which they have received but are simply flowing through to a higher tier, you're going to list the total amount of PTE credit received but being distributed on Schedule B, Section A, line 7. Then the amount of received and distributed PTE to each partner or shareholder should be reported respectively on the column in Schedule B, Section B, line L. An additional thing to note for middle tier entities is this. The total received and distributed amount that you report on line 7 of the Schedule B, that amount should not be included in the reported pass-through entity tax reported on the main return on line 61. This is because the amount received and distributed is only flowing through. It's not paid by the middle tier, it's just flowing through them. Please see the worksheet in the form instructions for further details on this. Now, the highest tier entity, which receives the K-1P, they will be allowed to claim the PTE credits that are passed to them. These credits may be claimed on the line specified on the main return as shown in the examples here. Please note that the correct line will be identified as pass-through entity tax credit, reported on a K-1P or a K-1T. So as you see in the example here from the 1120, that would be line 61D. And on the 1040 individual return, that is line 28. Now you should know all there is to know about pass-through entity tax and credits. But feel free to reach out to us if you have additional questions on this topic. But while we are discussing the reporting of pass-through amounts, we should also note a recent change which has been made on the IL-1065 return for investment partnerships. According to Public Act 103-0009, beginning with tax years ending on December 31st, 2023 and later, investment partnerships are required to withhold an amount for their non-resident partners. This amount is to be reported on line 59B of the 1065 return. To determine the amount distributed to each non-resident partner, you will need to complete a Schedule K-1P4 for each non-resident partner, and then you'll bring the total from all schedules K-1P4 over to line 59B of the 1065. There's no need for you to attach the schedules K-1P4 to the return when you file it, but you will want to keep it in your records in the event that we do request it at a later time. I'd now like to share some common mistakes which have been made by business income tax filers in the past. By avoiding these mistakes, you will also avoid delays in processing your return. First, we often see returns filed on the incorrect form for the filing period. This is especially true for taxpayers filing a fiscal tax year. For a fiscal year-ending return, please be sure to use the form that has the previous year listed at the top of the form. Don't make any changes by scratching out that number and putting the correct year, because that makes the form invalid. Use the form that has the prior year number on it when you're filing a fiscal year return. If you use the incorrect form, it will create delays in processing your return. Now, here are some common errors related to the additions and the subtraction modifications in the return. If there happens to be an addition on a Schedule K1P or K1T that you have received, that amount must be reported on the return. Also, when you're reporting a modification from a K1P or a K1T, make sure it's either reported on the correct line of the return or on the corresponding schedule for the correct line of that schedule. One thing you will want to note is that Schedule M, line 35, other subtractions, is generally not the place that you will report subtractions from a Schedule K1P or K1T, or any other subtractions for that matter. The only allowable subtractions for Schedule M, line 35, are listed in our publication 101. If it's not listed in the Schedule 101, there is probably a line on the return where it's really supposed to go. Please check Schedule 101, or Publication 101 that is, before you file your return to make sure that you're filing that line correctly. Finally, if you're reporting a subtraction for Schedule J foreign dividends, a copy of the Federal Schedule C or an equivalent is required for support on that return. Without these forms of support, your return processing will be delayed. Another section of the return where we see common mistakes is the apportionment section. First of all, when you are reporting income or loss outside of Illinois, you must complete all three apportionment lines: the total sales, the total Illinois sales, and the apportionment factor. Negative sales or negative sales factors are not allowed on the return. That includes your filing of Schedule UB and the subgroup schedule. Any special apportionment methods that you need to use must be approved by the department before you file your return, or it will cause delays in processing your return. Please be sure to verify that your Schedule UB and your subgroup schedule match the original return. When it comes to filing your Schedule K1P or your K1T, we only accept schedules which have been issued to the taxpayer. Estimated schedules are considered invalid, and the amounts from an estimated schedule will be disallowed when we process your return. When issuing a Schedule K1P or a K1T, please be sure that the amounts shown correspond to the amounts reported on the Schedule B for each partner shareholder or on Schedule D for each beneficiary. When you fill out the Schedule K1P or the K1T, we also ask that you be sure to include the full FEIN number for the recipient, partner, or shareholder, or beneficiary. That's on step 2 of the K1P or K1T. An incomplete form will again cause delays in the processing of the return. Another part of the return which causes problems for taxpayers is the payment section. The number one problem that we see from taxpayers is when they put the payments that they have made on the payment line of the return, they're including payments that were included with the return itself. Our intent for that line is only to include payments that are made prior to the filing of the return. We will be able to identify payments that are made with the return as well, but we do not want them included on the payment line. Now, when you are making a payment, we ask that you allow 15 days for that payment to post to your account. We will honor the date that we received the payment whenever that payment is posted. So if you go out to your MyTax Illinois account and you notice that a payment is missing, it's probably because we have not posted it yet. Give us time, at least 15 days, to make sure that that payment is posted. And when it does post, we will give it a good date that it was received. Also, in order to help us post your payment correctly, be sure to include your FIN number and the filing period on both the check and on the payment voucher. This helps us make sure that those payments are posted to the correct place. Then, when you're filing an amended return, we also ask that you're sure to file on the correct form. Just like an original return should be on the correct year's form, so should amended returns. Filing using an amended form must be on a form that has the letter X, such as an 1120X. We do not accept an original return with the word amended written across the top. Also, when filing your amended return, when you're making federal changes, a finalization date is required before we can process that amended change. If that federal return is not included with the amended, that will cause us a delay as we try to get that federal finalization date from you. I will point out that if you happen to make any of these mistakes or even any other errors, you may receive a notice from us asking for additional information or for corrections. I do want to share with you some exciting new information about a new system which we believe will be beneficial for business and withholding income tax filers. As the individual income tax process has available, beginning in June 2023, the business income tax area has also started a new system for business and withholding filers to respond electronically to the notices which have been issued by the department. To respond to a notice that you have received, you must log into your MyTax Illinois account. And then after logging onto the account, you'll click the area that says View More Account Options in the area that is associated with the tax type that you are filing your response for. So if you're responding to a business notice, you'll go to the business section and click View More Account Options. Or if you're responding to withholding, you'll click that option under the withholding heading. Then on the next screen, there will be a section called Letters and Messages. On that screen, you will need to click the Respond to a Notice button. And finally, it brings you to a list of letters or notices that have been issued to the account, and they are arranged in order of filing period that they were sent. You'll be able to either view or to respond to the notice that you have received by clicking the appropriate link. If you click View, you'll simply be able to view the notice so that you can compare it to the one that you have in your hand to make sure that it's the correct one. If you click the Respond, then it will take you to a section where you can begin to fill in your response, and it will also walk you step by step through the process of making the attachments that are required to support your request. If you have any questions at all about working through our electronic response system, you may reach out to our Taxpayer Assistance Division at 1-800-732-8866. They should be able to help you walk through that process so that you can get your response to us as quickly as possible. And as Brett mentioned with individual income tax, those responses that you send to us electronically through this method will get to us within moments. And that will get us to where we could work the work item much more quickly than something that you drop in the mail and could take a couple days to get to us. So we highly encourage that you use our electronic response system. We strive to make it an easier and a quicker process for taxpayers. Give it a try, and we'll help you out. To close, I'd just like to give you a few final quick tips about resolving problems with your business or withholding income tax. You may respond to any notice issued by our department, but we ask that you do it in a timely manner. And then when you do respond, we ask that you include a copy of the notice that you received so that we are sure we're working on the correct problem that you have on your account. Don't forget, we are here to serve you, and sometimes it takes a little bit of back and forth, but we want to work with you to resolve the problems that you have on your account. And when we get to that resolution, hopefully we'll be able to say that you're satisfied with what we've been able to do for you. Thank you very much for your time today. If you have any additional questions related to business income tax, you can ask those in the Q&A, or feel free to send me an email and I can have someone in my section look at that and we can find an answer as quickly as possible.